Action. All right, we're in the studio. Bryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you. How
Yeah.
about yourself?
I'm doing great, and I just want to thank you for coming in and taking the time out of your day because what's going on in LA at the moment with these wildfires is pure insanity, and I needed to like chat with someone to like try to make sense of it all.
Yeah, it really is. I just retired a year ago, 31 years in the LA City Fire Department. And in 31 years, and I've never seen anything like this. It's you could put all the fires together and it's may equal it, but it's insane.
What does it feel like being a retired firefighter who's now just on the cusp of being retired for a year and kind of watching all this happen not on your shift?
Uh, it's brutal. I
Mhm.
compare it to being on a team and you're sitting on the sidelines because you're injured. So you can't do anything.
Yeah.
It was the worst. It still is, I mean, it's not as bad, obviously, but you always wanna be out there. That's the job you do. Help people.
And, have they, like, reached out and, like, called back people like yourself who are, like, recently retired to get back and help out because it's such a massive crisis?
Uh, Not officially. You know, my last 13, 15 years on the job were in the West LA area, Brentwood, Palisades, and I know a ton of people there. So I've had a lot of people reaching out, whether it's from the day of, the day after, calling me to say, "Hey, should we leave our house?" Well, I had 2 families that I said, "You guys will be fine." They weren't fine. The house just got completely burned. And this was on the eastern end of the fire, east and southeast end, south of Sunset.
Mhm.
The fire started up in the hills and it came back around. And it's just crazy. The weather pattern that went through that thing was insane.
Mhm.
So, you know, watching that, sitting on the sidelines, having all these other people that are calling me um, that need help. I've tried to call on and say, "Hey, you guys need anything? Is there anything I can do?" And it's just I don't think it's probably liability reasons.
Mhm.
They don't want retired guys coming in.
Yeah, that maybe makes sense because if you get hurt on the job, like, what happens, right?
Right. You get
Yeah.
hurt on the job. It's, an injury on the job. You go therapy, you have surgery, you're better. You're not on the job.
Yeah.
There's none of that happens.
So, I mean, so all of this kicked off, like, last Tuesday afternoon. It was, like, January 8th or 7th or something like that?
I think it was the 8th.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It was a Thursday. It's a 10 days ago, right?
It was a Tuesday because
Okay.
the Runyon Canyon fire was a Wednesday night, and that's when we almost had to evacuate.
Right.
The Palisades fire, I think, started Tuesday afternoon, and then it ripped Tuesday night, and by Wednesday morning, the Palisades were gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely gone. I mean, I did get up there the day after, and driving down Sunset is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. You know, Sunset's hugely populated. Palisades, Brentwood, hugely populated. You're standing in the middle of Sunset Boulevard. You look either side, as far as you can see, there's nothing but ash, and it's just the saddest, most incredible thing I've ever seen. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna come back to what's going on currently a little bit, but I'd love to learn a little bit about you. So you kind of came to LA as a child with your parents and went to school here and lived here, and then you went away on a football scholarship and you played professionally in the NFL for a while.
Well, I wouldn't say I played. I had the opportunity to play.
Okay.
I signed with a couple teams as a free agent
Mhm.
2 years after college. One was the Broncos, one was the Jets, and didn't work out. And then that's what led me to the fire department.
Yeah, and so you decided to come back home to LA
Yeah.
and become part of the fire. So how does a former football star become a firefighter? Like, what is that process like?
Well, it was interesting because another buddy of mine that I played football with, his dad was a chief for the Los Angeles City Fire Department. And, growing up, I always saw a great guy, always handy with everything. And, at that age, you're thinking, oh man, he's always home, Well, we don't realize you're gone for 24 hours at a time.
Mhm.
So he kind of got me involved and, the team aspect of it, because when you're on a station, you're a team. Everybody has to work together no matter what you're doing, whether it's a fire, whether it's a physical rescue, whether it's somebody having a heart attack. And I like that. I don't think I could ever sit at a desk and do a job.
I played Division 1 basketball in Canada
Okay.
at the University of Toronto, and I was a point guard. And and the thing that I missed the most when I retired, I wasn't good enough to play professionally or play for my country. Was leaving that team atmosphere and that team environment and having, like, 10 or 15 guys all pulling together to get a job done. And that was the bit I think I missed the most. That was I went through huge withdrawal for like 2 or 3 years after that.
Oh, for sure. And, like I said, the department is the same because, I mean, basically you live together, you're there for 24 hours. Um, there's a locker room, you share meals, you do all this stuff together. And it's, when you can get in with a good group, it's, they're like family and they're like a team.
Yeah. And so through your friend and knowing his father, who was one of the police chiefs, you decided to enlist in, like, the trainee program?
Well, it was funny because I did it before I got picked up by the Jets. They call fill out an interest card. So you send it into the city, and then they'll contact you when they're doing their testing. So coincidentally, a couple days prior to me leaving to go to New York for minicamp, I got the notice that, hey, we're doing the test. There's a written test that they used to do. I think they still do it 30 years ago. But, you know, 10,000 people at the Civic Center.
Oh, really?
Oh my God. It's crazy. The amount of people that want that job
Mhm.
is unreal. And, so I had no choice. I was going to New York. I was going to be a football star, and then I was moving on to Monday Night Football. But that didn't happen. So I bypassed the test. I just didn't even show up. But then it was literally, I was in New York for 48 hours.
Mhm.
I had a shoulder surgery that the prior year with the Jets, a couple of all-pro guys were now suing the Jets organization for shoulder injuries. And here comes this guy, a free agent, who's got already a dinged up shoulder. And the doctor just said no. He said, we're not going to pass you on the physical.
Oh, wow.
So it was disheartening in one. Secondly, I get back and I realized because I graduated from college, I didn't even have to take the test, but because I didn't show up to the test, I'm erased off the list. So I got to start the whole process over.
Mhm.
So that cost me about 4 years.
Oh, wow, 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, so okay, so 10,000 people are trying out to be firefighter? Like, how many firefighters are there in, like, LA County?
Well, for LA City, we have 3,500
Okay.
around that number. There's 106 stations and we cover 3.8 million people. So it's a little thin.
3,500 firefighters for 3.8 million people. Yeah. That's tight.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to spread yourself thin, I guess.
Yeah. So it's 109 stations in
106
106 stations, in LA City.
within the city limits. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that goes from Calabasas to up off the 210 down to the harbor and everything in between.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a huge space.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure the square miles, but it's a hugely dense space.
Mhm.
A lot of people.
Yeah. So so, I mean, did your football skills translate well into being a firefighter?
Yeah, I think they did at the beginning. Definitely when I got into the drill tower, it was, it was, I'm not gonna say it was easy, but it was easier for me than it was some.
Mhm.
Um, and just being, you know, of that football mentality where you just get it done and, I don't mind people yelling in my face and things like that. So it helped.
You fit in well.
Yeah. Yeah. I was okay with it.
So you come back, you missed out on the test that you didn't need to take, then you had to wait another 4 years, and then the second time around you got in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything went well. Got in first class because after that they had what they called the brownouts, which meant that they stopped hiring for a couple years. And then we had the riots and then they hired right away. So I was right out of the box. We were into the riot.
And what year was the riots?
I got in 1992.
Okay.
So it was after the trial. It was the trial and all that stuff when everything went down. And I was actually stationed down in what they call South Central LA at that point. Now it's South LA. And it was pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it's got to be a totally different experience, right? Because you're trained as a firefighter to deal with fires and to deal with like personal injury and to deal with vehicles and accidents and all this kind of stuff. But then like now you're called in to deal with a natural disaster or protests or people destroying public property, private property.
Yeah.
Like it's the job is endless.
There's no, you can't put a bracket around anything that happens within the fire department. Back then too was the big gang era where drive-by shootings every night, multiple.
Mhm.
And, being down in South Central, it was pretty prevalent.
Pretty full on every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned like, you know, well, we're talking about a natural disaster today, but you mentioned the Northridge earthquake
Yeah.
was your first kind of real natural disaster that you lived through and also had to work through. Can you walk me through a little bit about what happened there?
Yeah. It was interesting. I was literally had just woken up. The earthquake hit. My wife and I lived in Sherman Oaks. She was 7 months pregnant with our first child. And, this thing was rocking. And we lived up on the top floor. Um, and, first thing I would think if what the heck's going on was with, you're up on this building. And I mean, everything we owned was just lost. We had just got married. So everything that we got from the wedding was gone. Um, Trying to crawl out of the apartment with my pregnant wife at that point, get downstairs, and the streets are just mayhem now. Everybody's out. It looked like a zombie land. People, like, what's going on? And people are hurt. Um, Actually had to go back in a couple times to help. We had a lot of old elderly people that lived in the building. And funny story, they were twins and they had to be 80, 90 years old. They lived in probably 2 doors down from us. And everybody knows everybody in the building. And they're like, I can't remember the name. So let me go see. And I'm pounding on their door. And I hear, "Oh, yeah, who is it?" And I go, "It's Brian from across the hall." I go, "We got to get out of here." I mean, this building was red tagged and destroyed. I mean, after we left,
See, it could have crumbled at any moment.
yeah, and you're getting aftershocks after aftershocks. And they're, "Well, hold on a second." I'm like, "Come on, we got to go, we got to go." Like, one of them says, "Well, so and so is putting her makeup on. We got to wait a couple minutes." I'm like, so I said, I made sure. I said, "Are you guys? Where are you?" They're like, "We're back in the back room." And I'm like, "Okay." So I kicked the door in. I'm like, "Come on, ladies, got to get out of here. Let's go." So from there, got everything squared away. Took my wife to her father's house. Well, first went and picked up my mom in Woodland Hills. Took them both over to my father-in-law's at the time and made sure they were all secure. And then now I got to go to work. So,
Was it like all hands on deck? Like if you're a firefighter, get the hell to a station. Like this is chaos.
well, I was scheduled to go to work anyways that day. So I was already up and ready to go. And I mean, like I said, it just coincidentally hit at the exact time I woke up. And yeah, so I mean, they hauled over just like they did for the fires. Um, and ended up, as soon as we got there, got suited up, went back to the valley, and we're just fighting fire for days, because all the buildings that were with the gas and all that stuff. And and it's funny, one of our favorite restaurants, it was a diner that was I'm sorry, a deli right down the street from where I just left. I was up on that roof. We were fighting that fire for 6 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. Fun.
So that was like a earthquake induced fire.
Earthquake induced fire, just because you have all the broken, gas lines and everything like that.
Hmm.
Um, it's funny driving down the freeway. I was actually stationed downtown at that point, driving from the valley to downtown. I mean, it was like Disneyland for firefighters because you're driving down the freeway. There's nothing but fire here, fire there, fire there. You're like, oh, God, disasters on one hand where you feel bad for people, but that's what we're here to do.
Mhm.
So
My God. And then there were there was really bad fires in 97?
I was trying to look that up. I can't remember all the dates. There was one probably a little bit sooner than that because
Hmm.
the Northridge quake was 94.
Yeah, 94.
Yeah, so maybe 97-ish or something like that. And yeah, I mean, we've spent days and days and days out there in the back of the rig because, you know, the firefighters are the ones that everybody sees and gets all the glory. And, we work our butts off, structure protection. LA City is more of a structure protection department. LA County is bigger in the brush, but the real guys, the real people that are the ones that the helicopter guys, the pilots in the planes, and then the camp crews that are up in the middle of the night up there cutting lines, while we're down here just kind of chilling. And you can hear them with the chainsaws and stuff like that. And, those guys work their butts off. I don't know how in the world. A lot of firemen are ex camp crew guys.
Mhm.
And you talk about being in shape, man. These guys are like Billy Goats. They are insane.
Mhm.
So,
That's wild. So I think like we've established that you were an active firefighter for 31 years and you saw a ton of crazy shit.
oh, I mean, being here back near Hollywood area, I tell you, I ended up going to paramedic school when my wife was. It was actually 1 week before we had our twins, so timing wasn't great, but had to do it, financially and all that stuff. And I liked doing it. I liked being a part because as a firefighter, you're an EMT, so you can do the basic life skills. As a paramedic, you can actually do things that change people's lives. IVs, drugs, all these different things that, stick tubes down people's throat when they're not breathing. So I really enjoyed that. And it kind of just drew me to it, but the timing was perfect.
Yeah. Does every fire station have a paramedic? Is one paramedic or two paramedics on call all the time as well?
Uh, I'm pretty sure we're at that point now with the department. I
Mhm.
mean, there was a time back in the day where when I first got on where there wasn't, I think that's kind of a push. That's been a big push with the department for years is guys that are coming on, maybe already having their paramedic cert. Because I did it while I was already on the job after 4 years, 5 years. And then, it was great because it was on duty. You know, was sucked because I was driving from City of Commerce all the way out to Agora and I got two brand new babies. So that was pretty tough. I mean, that's the first sip of coffee right here. That's the first time I started drinking coffee in my life.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we got medics at every station now, whether they're on the rescue. The LA City's kind of unique. We have ambulance that transport to the hospital, whereas a lot of apartments don't do it. They use private ambulance services.
Mhm.
So it's pretty cool. And as they call it a dual function, you're a dual function, you're a firefighter and a paramedic. So you work both sides. You can work the fire side, you can work on the medical side as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. I mean, you're just more useful to everyone.
Yeah. Both.
So, 31 years in the service, you're retired for 10 months and then this breaks out. I mean, what are you thinking on Tuesday when you're sitting, at home or with family?
Uh, First thing I did was grab all my stuff that I still have. Um, Probably subconsciously, I was hoping for a phone call. Um, but I was just, everybody's calling you and you're trying to predict what's going to happen. And, you've been there, so you kind of know, but then, you don't know, and you're not actually there on the line. So it was just, I mean, I knew it was going to be bad,
How'd you know that?
because the winds and where it started and how densely populated that area is. Now, never thought it was going to sweep back around to the east and the south. Thought it would go straight to the ocean like most fires do when we have Santa Ana winds.
Mhm.
But this thing swung back around to the east and then down south, and it was just absolute mayhem.
Now it's going north towards the San Fernando Valley, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's insane. It's like I don't have any experience with fires, but I'm watching like everyone else in this town figuring out like what the hell's really going on here. And like, you watch television shows, you watch the news about fires. Fires almost always kind of go with the wind and they usually go up because heat rises, right? But then this fire went right down through the Palisades and then wiped out all the stuff along the ocean. Like
Yeah.
I've never seen a fire kind of rush downhill like that.
Well, I'll tell you that the Woolsey fire we had a few years back,
Hmm.
that was one of them that went behind where I live out in Thousand Oaks. So that went behind us. And I'll tell you, I happened to be home that day and we have friends that lived on that side of the Conejo Valley, and that fire moved faster than anything I've ever seen. Now, this one moved fast, but it was also so destructive because of the density. Whereas this one, it was kind of on the backside of everything and just going through this brush, but there's that channel right there that goes through the valley down out towards Lake Camarillo. And you always have wind in there. You add some, Santa Ana's to that. And plus the brush is just so dense, I mean, that seems to be a big issue that people are talking about. And someone made the comment, who's going to be inaugurated on the 20th, that we should sweep our forests. Well, I don't know what he means by that. Are we using a broom or rakes? But I don't. It's just impossible.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I go hiking. I go hiking every, obviously before the fire happened, I would go hiking kind of every weekend in Topanga State Park, right?
Mhm.
Which is where all this is happening right now. Like Topanga State Park, it's done. Um, and I'm always surprised, like every time I go up there, just how dry everything is. Like you could take a branch off a tree and just be like crack.
Yeah.
Like there's no moisture up there at all.
No.
It's just dust, and you just pray to God like no one's up there. I've seen stuff on like social media like that this was like man-made. I mean, I don't know where you stand on any of the actual like origins of all this.
The good thing about it is these arson guys, they're amazing. They'll find out. I mean, I know that they had that one incident over by Hidden Hills during this whole thing where there was actually a person that started the fires, and the rumor is that he was part of this Chilean gang that have been sending guys over here, which is legit, and they're going in and they're robbing all these really expensive homes and stuff like that. I mean, you think about it, the guys. I mean, it's not smart because he got caught, and it's not a smart thing to do. But you start a fire, everybody evacuates. It's like going to a candy store with the doors locked. You pick up whatever you want.
Yeah.
But as far as, I mean, there's been a lot of that.
The light, like people starting fires so that they can loot homes.
Well, just starting fires, and there's a lot of freaks out there, and I always make the comparison, when we have a large fire, all the fire freaks are out there watching it and they want to do better. So it's like they want to one up the guy that just started the last one.
Are there like there's like groups of people out there? Like you guys know who some of them are? Like
No, we don't know who they are, but they've been caught, but in all my years of being a part of it, the arsonists that you find, I mean, that's their thing, man.
but fire freaks, like that's like a nickname.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's guys out there that just love starting fires.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why.
That's crazy. There's so much destruction. Like how can you get any gratification or any justification in doing anything like that when you see like 150,000 homeless people in the Palisades?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what happened with this one.
Mhm.
Hopefully it wasn't somebody that started it. There's always the blame's going around right now. If is it, DWP? Did somebody start it? Did you do this? Did they do that? It's just awful either way.
Yeah. Where do you stand on these like reservoirs and stuff like that? Like obviously you guys would have had access to reservoirs in the past when you're fighting fires, but they said like the one in the Palisades was empty for more than a year.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to blame that because the water systems in the city of Los Angeles they're old.
Hmm.
You see over the last few years how many giant water mains we've seen that have broken up in the hills. It's just old infrastructure, and it's unfortunate that I don't know if I mean, I'm sure that may have made a little bit of a difference, but, when you're at home and you have every shower and every faucet going in your house, you're not gonna have water pressure, and that's what was going on. There's never been this many people in that dense of an area trying to fight a fire that's blowing at 80 to 90 miles an hour.
So you think like people in the Palisades were out there with their garden hoses and trying to wet their homes and trying to like save their homes, and that's actually what maybe reduced the fire pressure in the hydrants and stuff like that, or
No, no, no. I mean, those the fire hose is a couple gallons a minute. That's not doing it. And it's heroic for those people to try to do that. And I'd probably do the same thing. But it's just the system and the the numbers of hoses that we had out there, the number of firefighters we had out there. It just inundated the system. And again, when you're trying to fight a fire that you've got 80, 90-mile-an-hour winds, you know, it's like peeing in the wind, because you're not gonna. It's just there's too much going on, and that wind is just blowing it back.
Mhm.
So, and again, 3,500 firefighters for 3.8 million people. They can't all be at the Palisades at that time.
Yeah.
You know, and there's other parts of the city that need to be covered as well.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, like I said, like Wednesday night when Runyon Canyon went up, like we were all watching that because obviously that was something that could have spread quite close to where the studio is here,
Right.
and and that was terrifying. And they said that they caught a few people in that whole Runyon Canyon area that were actually lighting those fires. Like it's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
There's crazy people everywhere, and it's unfortunate.
What was it? I mean, what was it like being a firefighter for 31 years, dealing with all that craziness on a daily basis?
Job security. I always joke about that, but it's cool because you never know what's going to happen,
Hmm.
and you always hope for the best. You hope that you can help somebody. You hope that you can save somebody's house. You hope that you can make somebody feel better. Um, and I think I just like the aspect of not knowing what's going to happen.
Hmm.
You know, you can go all day and do nothing at some station, and you can go be at another station where you're running 24 calls a day.
Hmm. Well, you said you mentioned to me that your last 13 years of your 31-year career, you were in Brentwood,
Yes.
and of course, Brentwood now is on the verge of being kind of evacuated, or the fire almost came down right to where Brentwood is. I mean, you would have been in like right in ground zero, that
Yeah.
whole neighborhood, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That would have been. Yeah, that would have been tough because everybody. You don't know everybody, but that's your home. Think about it. We work. A firefighter is scheduled 10 24-hour shifts a month, so that's 120 days out of the year, right? But they're 24-hour shifts. That's what people don't understand. People always look at firemen. Oh, a guy's always home. Oh, you got a great life. Well, you know, I figured it out after 31 years of being on the job with 3 kids who are 30, and I have twins that are 28 right now. Just working my regular shifts.
You don't look old enough to have kids that old, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. After 31 years, I just 10 shifts a month for 31 years. I was gone 12 years of my kid's life.
Yeah,
People don't understand that.
that's huge.
Huge.
Mm.
And I worked a ton of overtime, you know? So, it drives me crazy when people are like, oh, firemen, they got the greatest life. They don't, they're always at the river, they're always skiing, they all this and do that. But no, you don't understand. I mean, you're gone.
Yeah. Well, I don't think firefighters have an easy life. Like I've seen, anyone that has to run into a building on fire and pull people out, that's not easy work at all.
Wow, we're not the smartest either.
Your words. So Tuesday happens. You grab your stuff. You're kind of like, man, is someone gonna ring on the door? Like, I mean, did you feel like this call to service? Like it was, did you feel like you're back on active duty and you just wanted to do something? Like, I
Yeah,
couldn't imagine how frustrating that would have been because obviously the firefighters that the city had were completely overwhelmed.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's tough. It's tough sitting there, and again, I know realistically, I'm probably not. They're not going to give you a call, because I think the system that we have in place works. If like this thing popped off, there's a shift that's on duty, and there's a shift that's going off duty every morning at 6 a.m. So that morning, they implemented a holdover. So you have double the guys that are normally on are still there.
Hmm.
And so, for all these people to be talking about, well, where were the firefighters? One isn't enough, and this and that. There were.
Hmm.
And again, we cover the entire city. So
Does that include Pasadena, by the way? I'm not familiar.
Pasadena has their own
Okay.
department. I think Altadena does as well. But then you have, mutual aid where everybody helps everybody in a situation like this. I mean, I saw rigs from Utah, Colorado. I mean, these,
They have the water dropping planes from Canada.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, those things are amazing, man. Those things. It's sad that we can't have more of those
Hmm.
all the time, you know.
Well, California is big enough and has enough wild areas that you'd think, like, I mean, I know Northern California has wildfires all the time, but they just happen to be in national parks, or they happen to be kind of not in urban centers like they are now. But these are, having a bunch of these planes around doesn't seem like such a big deal when they could be used everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, maybe the government of the United States should do that for us.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I think, it's it's uh it's been frustrating for me because, like, I'm a new resident to Los Angeles. I've only been here a year, like I was telling you earlier. And, uh, and to see this level of devastation is terrible, right? And then, but to see, like, the media then take over and the finger pointing, and it's like, guys, like, we haven't even fucking killed the fire yet,
Right.
and everyone's trying to figure out who's responsible. Like, let's like get everyone safe. Like, people in Altadena, people in Palisades, like, they're homeless. They got no food. The fire's still raging. Like, I wake up every morning and the fire in the Palisades gets bigger because it's going north into the valley, and I'm watching this thing every day. And then it's like the whole news has just turned into bickering bullshit, and all I wanted to do was talk to a firefighter.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, and it all started the night of when a certain person got on the news who lost to Mayor Bass and started pointing the fingers at why she wasn't in town. It's her fault and her responsibility, and the water system's this and the water system's that. But then his new center in the Palisades looks like it did the day that it was built. So instead of pointing fingers and, this should have been done, or if I was here, or whomever it may be,
Mhm.
how about now helping out to figure out how to rebuild so that we don't have these disasters? And some of those houses are built in the 50s, so there's nothing you could do. I mean, that's the biggest problem right now, too, that people don't understand. And excuse me, I know a lot of people are upset that they're not getting back into their houses. Well, there's poison up there.
There's nothing there either.
And but it's poison that's down now in soot, and it's flying all over the place. Everybody's hoping for rain, and God forbid we get a giant rain because now all that stuff's going to go out in the ocean,
Yeah.
So it's kind of a catch-22. But yeah, the pointing the fingers and everybody trying to make statements as to who said and what should have been done and this and that. And, I mean, even if the mayor was here, what was she going to do?
Yeah, was she gonna grab a hose and
Yeah.
kick down some doors and save people? No.
Yeah, and they're busting our chief, and, well, she didn't do this and she didn't do that, and, I mean, they did everything that we do every year, but with 90-mile-an-hour winds, you just can't win.
So you think this was just, like, in your humble opinion, as a 31-year veteran, you just think this was like a complete, just freak of nature? Like, if it wasn't for those winds, this fire probably wouldn't have gotten anywhere.
Oh, no, for
Yeah.
sure, yeah. I mean, I talked with a buddy who is an engineer. He's the guy on the side of the fire engine who's dialing in the pressures for the hoses and all that stuff, and he said at one point he literally had to brace himself against the door because he was getting pushed by the wind. This is a grown man.
In a fire truck.
He was outside,
Okay.
standing outside. Yeah. He's got to be outside at the panel doing his thing. And he said it was just, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't hold on.
Mhm.
So it's a hurricane with fire. I mean,
That's the worst possible combination.
for worse. And nobody predicted it.
Yeah.
Nobody, they did say there was going to be bad winds, but we have Santa Ana's here every year.
At the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gets longer now. They're getting longer and longer and longer as far as the time frame that we have them. But there's no such thing as global warming.
Yeah. Everything's changing all the time, it feels like. But one thing I wanted to ask you is just, you know, it's it's funny because, I mean, I've lived abroad for my whole life almost, and you know, California, Los Angeles, like, they always have fires in the summertime.
Yeah.
Like, because it's fucking dry as shit and it's hot, and you can't do anything about it. And then some guy on a hiking trail or whatever, woman, has a smoke or whatever, or sets a little campfire, doesn't clean up properly, and then in the summer it rips. But we're like, this is January, like, and it's pretty uncommon, isn't it?
I mean, I've seen the change in the last 10 years. We had a fire season,
Mhm.
but now it's all year. You cannot predict it. You can predict the winds, but now they're getting longer and longer into the, winter season.
So what was the fire season like 20 years ago when you were working in when you were on active duty? What was considered to be like the regular fire season?
Into summer through fall, because then you had the Santa Anas that came in, and it usually rained January, February. Um, but what was it, 80 degrees on Christmas Day out
Yeah.
here? And I'm not complaining. I was in Chicago 2 weeks before that, and I hated every second of it.
Well, that's why we live out here, right? Because it's sunny and beautiful every day. But you don't want to. You also don't want to live in a tinderbox.
No,
No.
no, and it's difficult because that's why we're here. Like you said, it's beautiful. It's Mandeville Canyon. You drive up Mandeville Canyon, it's like you're in another world. It's like, but it's so dense and so populated and creates problems.
So what do you think? Excuse me. What do you think it is about the Palisades that just made this like a perfect storm? Like, because it's it just seems like everything happened so fast. Like, was it literally just if the winds had been 5 miles an hour that night, like nothing would have happened?
The winds and the fact that they didn't have the helicopters or the airplanes the first night
Yeah.
because of the winds.
Oh, so that's why they couldn't get the helicopters
Yeah,
and the planes in the air because it would have been too dangerous because of the wind.
right.
Okay. See, no one's mentioned that on the news.
Yeah. I mean, all they say is, "Oh, but where were they?" Yeah.
Yeah.
Why weren't they out there?
100-mile-an-hour winds. You want all the pilots to die as well?
Yeah, and those guys are money. I mean, those guys are amazing. The stuff that they do. I don't know if you've seen that one video that's on about them. They're literally doing like skids in the air, throwing water and all this stuff. And it's just, again, the perfect storm, and you can't predict it.
Hmm.
You know, you just can't.
How many of your friends were working in Brentwood that night?
Oh, I probably know. I know a lot.
Yeah. And like, were you worried for them? Like, were you thinking about,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I saw one of my classmates on the news last night, almost to tears. He's one of our chiefs.
Mhm.
And, it, it, it's hard because we take it hard because that's our duty. That's our oath to help protect and serve. And, you know, I think he's taking it pretty hard,
Mhm.
obviously. But again, there's no predicting that. And if we had 10,000 firefighters out there that day, would it make a difference? Maybe, but there certainly would have been a bunch of destruction like it is.
Yeah.
And you can't predict it. You can't say the fire's going to start at 10:43 in the afternoon. Everybody be ready,
Hmm.
you know? And logistically, we don't fight fire up in the hills. You can't.
Hmm.
That's for the helicopters and the planes. So you're not going to get 1,000 firefighters charging up a hill with
With the
hoses
hoses on your back. Yeah.
to put out a fire that's 1,000 feet in elevation. It just doesn't happen. It can't.
Where the wind is strongest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing that people don't understand too, fire, the way it works sometimes, and I'm no expert by any means, but I've seen it. If you're in a canyon and this side of the canyon's on fire, well, it's preheating this side, the radiant heat. So eventually this side's going to pop off as well. And now you've got an inferno because now they're playing off of each other, and then it creates its own wind and it does everything. And that's the thing too. I don't know about, the wind patterns and how they work with a fire, but I've never seen one that was going towards the beach with that kind of wind and then circle back around and go south.
Hmm.
And it had a lot to do with the embers and, again, old houses. And, I was part of our brush task force for many years.
What's a brush task force?
So a bunch of guys go out at a certain time of the year. I think it's in the spring. I think it was like May, April, March, somewhere in that.
Mhm.
And you have an area and you go out and you literally drive the streets. You have maps and you're looking at the property lines, and, the clearance for people's houses is supposed to be, it's at 200 feet now, right? Clear your brush. We have strict rules and instructions, like certain trees, cut them 10 feet off the ground, things like that. But basically clean up your shit.
It's so there. Sorry, I don't know. I've never owned a home, and I don't. So this is the first time I heard of this. So, LA City has like a mandate for people who have like bushes and yards and trees
And
on their
brush
homes.
zones and
Yeah.
brush areas, yeah, and every year, we got guys going out. Every year, people get their notices, and every year, there's not a lot of compliance,
Mhm.
and I get it.
Can you find people for not complying, like, to clean up their yards and stuff?
Yeah, I'm sure they can, but I don't know that side of it. I was just the guy that went out and
Yeah.
said, "Hey, this needs to be cleared out."
'Cause it's a huge conflict of interest, right? Because like, that's your personal property, and you bought the property, and property rights in the United States, that's the real deal. But then also too, you have professionals like yourself coming in and being like, "Hey,
Yeah,
I know this is your property. Congratulations, you have a beautiful property, but this is a fucking problem for fires. I'm a firefighter. You know, I can't force you to do it, but you should really clean this shit up." Like, how hard a conversation is that? It puts you in direct conflict to save people's lives.
yeah, and them to do something to possibly save their home,
Yeah.
you know? And I get it, it's expensive, and most of these places, that's why people move there, because they like that outdoor, woodsy, beautiful area. But, you know, it could it could make a difference for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. So back to this. So Tuesday, like, you're watching this go off, you're kind of missing the fact that you're retired and you weren't able to help, your team, your friends
Yeah.
and coworkers. I mean, what were you then thinking about doing after? Because you mentioned to me that you have been down in the Palisades a little bit trying to help. Like, what kind of facility have you been able to provide, like, in that experience?
I was able to go through and actually get up there, and the friends and families that we know, confirm your house is gone. You know, thank God we don't know anybody that was had died or anything like that. Everybody we know got out.
Well, I'm surprised at how few people have been killed. Like, I used to live in China, and when there was a natural disaster in China, like, thousands of people would die. Like, and I've filmed in India and all over the world, and I'm used to, like, death, a lot of it, right? And for these fires to happen, and now we're in day 10 or whatever, and there's only like 28 people or 30 people that have been killed. I mean, obviously that's a terrible thing, and that's destroying families and stuff like that. But surprisingly small number of
Yeah,
deceased,
yeah,
like magical.
yeah. It really is. But I mean, I think most of the people that have lived in the Palisades, and then you also have the Altadena area where there's mass destruction and in a smaller scale, but it's still the same. And I don't know how you would equate the two, but the people in Palisades got out. You know, um, Altadena, I don't think a lot of people. I think it's a much older community. It's one of the first communities in California that allowed Black people to buy homes back in the '60s.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's most of the majority of people in that community are Black
Mhm.
or of color of some sort. And I don't, resources or not, I don't know what the difference would be that would make more people, because it seems that there's more people who were killed in Altadena than there are in the Palisades, and I don't know if there's a formula for that or what.
Mhm.
But it's just sad all around that anybody would die. It doesn't need to be that way. But you also have it was so fast. Like I said, I have two friends that called me at the beginning of the fire. I'm like, oh no, you're okay. Don't worry about it. Got a little hairy. I was like, you guys just go. Why not?
Mhm.
Gone. Both of
It's
their houses.
it's crazy because my friend David, who's a photographer, travels all around the world doing photo assignments and stuff like that. So he's been covering the fire for the last couple days, and he went out on Tuesday afternoon
Yeah.
and started shooting the fire being, like, taken by the wind, and he was blown away by it. And he was like, "Holy shit, this is big." Then he went home and kinda, like, regrouped and grabbed all of his stuff like, his mask and the whole thing, and he's like, "This is gonna be, like, a big deal." And then he went back out Wednesday morning at 4 a.m., and he's like, all of the Palisades was gone by 4 a.m. on Wednesday morning, and he was just like, he was there, like, 10 hours earlier, when it just started. And so, here's a question for you, like, working in Brentwood the way you did for so many years, like, did the people who lived in the Palisades really know that they were, like, living on a tinderbox like that? Like, did they know the risk, the fire risk of living in that neighborhood?
Maybe in the Highlands off Palisades Drive because it's more hilly and rural, whereas in the actual village, it's just like it's flat and it's all older houses and things like that. I don't think those people even thought once about it. But there's so many houses and one catches, and the next one catches, and then you have that wind that makes it unstoppable.
Yeah. You mentioned that a lot of the houses in those neighborhoods are older houses, like built in the 1950s. So that would have been wood, right? Like, is that part of the problem? Like, I think today there's more concrete, there's more brick, and then of course some people, have fireproofed their homes with fire retardant roofing and fire retardant paint on the outside of the buildings and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like, do you think that part of the reason why the fire was so destructive was because the houses were so old in that neighborhood?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so close together. There's no space. There's no defensible space between these houses. Our fire station almost burnt down right there in the middle of the village.
Wow.
There's nothing on either side, all four sides of that building, our fire station. And guys were out there. They had to defend the fire station. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's crazy. The firefighters had to defend the fire station from being
yeah.
set ablaze.
Firestorm.
Yeah.
That's what everybody said.
Well, so I've seen a lot of video and I've seen a lot of pictures of just like the fire embers were just ripping down this street, but it looked like the whole street was on fire. Like there was just thousands and thousands of these red hot embers just ripping at 80 miles an hour down the street, and it made it look like the whole street was like a lava flow.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen that too, and it's insane.
Yeah.
And it just that those are the killers. I mean, that's you can't suppress embers. Embers are going to fly. They can go miles, and get in the eaves of somebody's house. There you go. You got one, the next one, the next one, the next one. So
Mhm. Where do you think we stand on having like the Palisades fire, for example, actually being like done? Like, I mean, are there still embers burning up there? Are there still, in communities that have already been evacuated? Like, do you think there's, you know, I mean, people obviously can't go back because there's nothing there, but do you think, is there anything left that could still catch fire up there? Like, can fires kind of like stay dormant for a little while and then come back?
they can, but I don't think. I mean, again, I don't want to make any predictions,
No.
but I mean, there's so much destruction. There's really nothing else to burn. You know. Um, I would say anything's possible, but I don't know how much more there is left up there.
Yeah.
And with they're talking about more Santa Anas next week. So, I know it's creeping up to the north, going over to the San Fernando Valley side, but if we have Santa Anas, that's going to take it back the other direction. And then that's going more towards like Topanga, Malibu, and things like that.
Hmm.
So,
So, I mean, and I mean, yeah, it's like, there's a massive forest fire in the biggest urban center in the United States, and we're on day 10,
yeah,
and we have no idea what's going to happen next.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they've got that thing, they've got it under control as much as you possibly can have up in the middle of the hills. And
Hmm.
with, there's no houses or anything like that.
Just the Getty Museum, I heard it was almost torched, but I think they saved it.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
did. Yeah, they did the villa down there.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, all we can do is hope and pray. I don't think right now it's kind of just a smoldering fire that we're hoping can get handled.
Mhm. Have you ever caught an arsonist personally?
No.
No. What happened? I mean, do you know what happens to these people?
Oh, they go to jail. Yeah, they do a lot of jail time. I had a fire. We went to a fire in Hollywood here. I don't know, 20 years ago, or whatever it was, and it was an abandoned apartment complex, and an arsonist had gone in there. And I mean, this is how crazy these people are. He filled light bulbs with gasoline. So he took a hypodermic needle, put gas in the bulb, sealed it, had them all the way down the hallway. So started the fire. So what's going to happen when the fire starts? The heat and it's going to these things. I mean, that could have killed all kinds of firemen.
Mhm.
You're dropping bulbs of gasoline, and he knew exactly what he was doing. They're nuts.
So he wanted to burn down the building and hurt as many firefighters as possible.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, do stuff like that happen often?
I don't know how often. I mean, you hear of it,
Mhm.
and it's. I think it was weird. It seemed like many years ago there was more of the copycats than there are right now, and I'm just talking just out of what I've seen, from the outside. There was a year, might have been that year we were talking about when, it seemed like there was a fire, and then that would be kind of going out or even still going, and all of a sudden this other one would start up. Kind of like what happened here
Yeah.
this past week. But these were going big, and it was just, I think most of them were arsonists. And it's just,
It's crazy. I was looking at a map, like, I remember Wednesday night, or Thursday, maybe Wednesday night or Thursday last week, I was looking at a map and, we're here in West Hollywood, Beverly Hills, and, to the west, Pacific Palisades, fire, you know, to the north, Runyon Canyon, fire, to the east, Pasadena, fire. And it's just like, it was apocalyptic.
yeah,
Like, I've never seen anything like that.
no, it was insane. I mean, it was definitely circling up the troops, and it was just, thank God it didn't. I mean, I don't know how much worse you can get in the Palisades, but there's just, tons of other areas within the city that have the same kind of makeup that could be a problem as well.
Now, I mean, like, where do you see the danger? And this is all obviously like a little bit hypothetical, but I would love to kind of like tap on your 31-year experience as a firefighter. Like, how in danger is like Santa Monica from having these fires come back with Santa Ana winds and come down? Because Santa Monica, like, I've been there.
Yeah.
Um, it's not far from here, but
Yeah.
like, it seems like it's more moist. There's maybe less dry brush,
It's flat.
it's flat. It's not in the wind the same way the Palisades was.
Right.
Like, do you think, like, if the winds kind of come back around, like places up like somewhere like Santa Monica or Venice Beach could catch the same way?
I don't know if it would be the same way. I think the problem you would have there is because of the density and how many houses are so close together, and they are older houses as well. I mean, you could have the perfect storm of that, like where you've got so many houses that are just continually and they're close, and one goes to the other and the other. But I don't think you'll have as many embers as you do with the brush.
Mhm.
So, you know, I guess anything could happen, but I don't think it's going to be. It could be as bad as that.
Yeah. Because I mean, I don't don't mean to sound like an idiot, but it's way better hearing a firefighter like yourself speculate
Yeah.
than hearing some news reporter
Right.
or some journalist being like, "Oh, Santa Monica will be fine." It's like, I don't think so. Maybe not, right? Because, a lot of people, and also too, like, a lot of that smoke and stuff like that sat over Brentwood and Santa Monica, all that toxic
Yeah.
stuff, and that can be, just as deadly in some cases for people that already have, immune problems or lung, breathing problems.
Yeah. Well, that was like after the Northridge earthquake. All of a sudden, all these people were getting all these respiratory issues, and they called it valley fever. And it was all these spores and mold spores and things like that that were shaken up from the earthquake. And a lot of people got really sick. So, I mean, I can't predict that Santa Monica won't burn down, but they're not in the interface with the brush and things like that the Palisades has. So,
Mhm. It looks like from a map now that the Palisades fire specifically is kind of burning in a no man's land. Like, there's not a lot of people living in those areas at the moment. So it's kind of like, I feel like some of the news coverage is less intense
yeah.
than it was last week. But I mean, like you said, like, we could have strong winds next week. And I read somewhere today that, the Palisades fire is like 22% contained or something like that, or 25% contained, which is
Yeah.
which is better, because like last week it was 5% contained
Right.
and just ripping
Yeah.
with the wind. But if we have like 80 or 90-mile-an-hour winds again, like, there's no defense against it, right?
No, of course. No, you can't. Like I said, they have camp crews that go up there and they're cutting lines, and they got bulldozers and things like that, and the planes, and hopefully they can get after it. But it's just, I guess it's kind of a wait and see game. You hope that it can be so contained at the point where maybe we have winds that it can have a fire break that stops it, so it doesn't go in any other direction. But again, Santa Ana winds are pretty predictable normally, whereas this was something completely crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What's I mean, can you remember a fire that you were a part of that kind of shook you a little to your core? Like maybe the same way people are fighting these fires today?
a brush fire.
Yeah.
We had some pretty gnarly stuff up in Malibu a couple times that, you know, might have gotten yourself in a little too deep and things like that, but never wins like this.
Yeah.
Never. I mean, again, the only thing I can say is a hurricane with fire, and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
We try. We try. I tell you, those guys are busting their asses. I mean, there's guys out there that were out there for 3 days in a row with no sleep.
Hmm.
How do you do that? How does a normal person do that? A guy that works an 8-hour a day job, he goes home and goes to bed every night, right?
Yeah.
Stuff.
3,500 firefighters for 3.8 million people. That's pretty tight.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And then, you factor in too, guys get sick or, somebody, eh, there's a lot of factors that I wish that the public would understand.
Well, walk me through some of them.
So I'll just take my station, for example. Every day there's 6 guys, 4 guys on the engine, 2 guys on the rescue. The Palisades station, there's 4 guys on the engine, 2 guys, 4 guys on the truck, 5 guys on the truck. And, but staffing sometimes creates problems because, somebody at this station is sick or there's something, they have to fill spots. So you might have to move a person somewhere or something like that. Or someone calls in sick, it's just like you our city does a great job of staffing everything we possibly can. And, the problem with us, and we always joke about this with the LA City Fire Department, no matter what they do, no matter how short our staffing is, no matter what the problems are, we always make it work. So people look at that and they're like, oh, well, they don't understand, you're working short-handed, or you got guys that have been working 6 days in a row, or you got guys that have, we're humans. We have problems at home and things like that too. You got kids and this and that. There's a human factor that people don't understand. They just think we're robot firefighters and we should be there every second of every day for them. Well, we have homes too, you know? So it's just, I mean, again, whatever the situation, even if we're shorthanded, even if we may or may not have a hiring going on, or I don't even know what the situation is with that right now. But I know our guys do everything they can to get the job done every second of the day,
Yeah.
and it's hard to hear the criticism.
Yeah, because I think I think universally firefighters are loved because they do the hard work, right? So I don't think anyone would want to see them underfunded or defunded or not, in a position where you have everything you would need to perform the incredibly difficult job that you have to do.
Yeah, and it's tough. We need more guys. I mean, just take the numbers: 3,500 for 3.8 mil.
Yeah. One firefighter for 1,000 people.
I'm big, but I can't carry that many people.
I'd like to see you try. It could be a new reality TV show.
There you go.
So I mean, how do you feel reading all this news? About you're not like reading into all these conspiracy theories or reading all this finger pointing. You're just kind of ignoring it.
I ignore it because I know the truth. Well, I know the truth on our side.
Hmm.
I know our guys and girls, women have done everything they possibly could, and there was no hiccups. We did, I know I wasn't there, but I know how our system works, and it's always worked well. But we've never had something like this.
So what I mean, walk me through this system. So okay, so Tuesday afternoon, this fire starts in the hills over the Pacific Palisades. Like I've seen footage. I don't know if it's fake or not. It might have been a hiker. Someone might have started something. So so the fire department in the Palisades, if someone saw that, they might have been called or 911, but you said like you don't send firefighters up into the brush because the hoses aren't that long and you can't fight a fire up there. You need to wait for helicopters and planes, but the wind was so bad that the fire just ripped and it was kind of like you guys were helpless? Like,
Well, I mean, at that point, our job is structure protection, and then when you factor in the low water supply, and it takes time to. It's again, it's like a chess game or a team. Everything just doesn't happen at once. Like you're playing football, everybody doesn't just go to the same spot and then you score a touchdown or you don't. It has to be finely tuned, and our people were pre-deployed in the places that they should have been as far as the brush areas prior to, because of the winds predictably coming.
mhm. So sorry, just to interrupt. So knowing that the strong Santa Ana winds are coming on a certain evening or certain day,
Yeah.
the fire department will have people out just like spotting, like watching,
Well,
or
they'll send staffed engines to the areas. So they'll go like to a fire station in an area where the predictable winds are coming. So there's extra people there, you know. It's not like we just sit there and wait. I mean, that is our job, but we're never there. But when something's going to go down, I mean, come on, that's our job. I mean, that's what the city does.
Mhm.
It's not nobody was napping that morning when the winds were blowing and all of a sudden they get the ring. It's time to go.
Yeah. And so like the fire department in the Palisades, gets a call, there's a fire up on the hill, can't really do anything about it, and then it's completely kind of within a few hours completely out of control. Like what would have happened then? Like would all the other fire departments in LA City area have gone to the Palisades to support, or like what were the reinforcements like?
Well, I mean, I can't speak because I wasn't there, but just as far as what I've seen over the years, yeah, they bring out everybody they can.
Mm.
But again, we still have the city of Los Angeles. There's still, you know, Billy's mom's having a heart attack over on the other side of town. We can't not have anybody there.
Mhm.
So you can't dump the entire city into one spot.
Right, that's what I think that's what I was asking. Like
Yeah.
that's
No. That would be silly. But they sure as hell dumped everybody there that they could as fast as they could. And it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you get mutual aid. You got, Santa Monica coming in, Beverly Hills coming in, anybody everywhere, Ventura County, where I'm from. I mean, it, there's no perfect play in
Mhm.
this game. You have to do it as it goes. And again, like I said, I mean, the biggest firefighter in the world is the Pacific Ocean. And that's where normally all those fires go. Unfortunately, there's many, many houses and people that get, their stuff blown out in between.
Yeah.
And, think about the number of houses that are burnt down. I don't even know what the number is right now.
Tens of thousands.
We don't have that many people to stay in front of everybody's house,
Wow.
you know? So how do you make it better? You can't, because I don't know. I'm talking out of myself, out of my ass. Um, that we just don't, it's impossible. It's impossible. You cannot predict 80 to 90-mile-an-hour winds in the perfect storm like that, ever. So put a bubble over the whole city and have sprinkler heads. I don't know.
Coming soon, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what do you guys like really tell residents in, when you were in Brentwood or whatever, or in the Palisades? Like, what do you tell homeowners about fire home protection? Like, because a lot of our listeners are all around the world, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of people live in high-rise buildings, or they live in like little places like this where we are today. Like may not have like a standalone home,
Right.
but the Palisades was the majority of like single-family standalone homes. So, what are you telling them as a way of like fire prevention on during times where there's like low risk, but to be prepared for maybe something coming?
Yeah. I mean, the number one thing I think people can do is brush clearance. The second thing is be prepared with a plan so that when you do have to get out, you can just go. The rebuild of Palisades is going to be, I mean, that place is going to be amazing when it gets rebuilt, because I'm sure every new technology, I mean, like I said, a lot of those places were built in the 50s. So now you got a lot of technology out there that's fireproof, fire retardant. So that's the way that I'm sure everybody's going to have to go. And then, but here's the problem too. You think about it. How many people up there didn't have insurance?
Yeah, that's going to be I'm dying to see how all this plays out with the insurance people because I think a lot of people are not going to be fully compensated.
Fucking greedy.
Yeah.
The insurance companies, I mean, it's disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting what these insurance companies have done to people's lives,
Hmm.
and, hopefully there'll be some kind of ordinance or, something comes down from Congress and changes this all because they sure did make a hell of a lot of money, I'm sure, last year, but they're still canceling people who now have nothing.
Which is unforgivable.
Unforgivable, you know?
I've um I've wondered about the redevelopment because I haven't been through a disaster like that before, but um, you know, just hypothetically, if I was in the Palisades and I had to run out of my house at 10 p.m., with family, friends, animals, and like a bag over my shoulder, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then I went back and my home was gone. I don't think I would want to live there ever again.
Yeah, I could see that happening too. But again, where else are you gonna go in California?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, I'd probably just leave the state. Like, I think I'd be so fucking traumatized that this idea of like living in the Palisades, looking out over the ocean every day, I don't think it'd make me happy the same way it would after what you'd been through, right?
This is probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad. It is sad because California is the greatest. I mean, we have everything,
Yeah.
right? Snow, beach, whatever you want to do, you can do. But I guess we have to pay the price too.
Yeah, it seems like there's an oversized number of natural disasters in this part of the world, and it's like you said, it's I guess the price of living in this kind of paradise.
Yeah, maybe we should lower the prices now.
I'm worried. So my friend David was over this morning, was showing us his photos and stuff like that from this, and the thing that really stuck out to me, and Altadena as well, right? Like Palisades as well, like the homes were very old, and they had a lot of character. And, and I'm just afraid that, when the rebuild comes, are we going to get these cookie cutter homes? Everything's going to start looking the same. Like the whole kind of personality of the that neighborhood is going to be gone. And like, I'm really worried about just the quality of the rebuild, like obviously fire retardant paint, roofing and all that stuff, newest technologies. Yes, yes, yes. But if they just kind of, McDonald's home, the whole neighborhood, what are we doing?
Yeah, you hope it doesn't happen because it takes away from the character. And, Altadena is huge like that because those houses are really old and a lot of character. And, you know, I'm not sure that the Altadena people have the resources that the people of the Palisades are going to have. I mean, just be realistic. And, hopefully everything gets distributed and helped out in an even fashion. But yeah, it's going to be, you know, you read, I didn't read, but I heard stories of some people that I know. And, yeah, it's tough. You lose your house and it's awful and the most horrible thing in the world. But you're living in, you're staying at the Four Seasons now, whereas people in Altadena are laying up in a high school gym or wherever they're supposed to be. And I'm not bashing anybody or, the haves and the have nots. It doesn't matter to me, but it's just that it doesn't seem that there's a lot of spotlight being put over there in Altadena,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it should be. Maybe we just don't see it.
Because the socioeconomic difference between the two regions is pretty significant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's okay. I mean, those people worked just as hard as those people worked, on both sides. But let's hope it all comes back together
Yeah.
nicely.
What do the firefighters need more at this moment than anything else, do you think?
More firefighters, more fire stations, and more equipment. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
'Cause this shit doesn't stop. Like, it just like, when you look at all of the brush and all of these mountains and all this wind, like, there's never gonna be a year where there's not major fires. You just hope it doesn't rip through a neighborhood.
right. And you can't predict it and you can't say yes or no. There's no way to, and there's no way to stop it, you know?
I think that's the thing that freaks most people out the most. Like they just don't understand that 80, 90, 100-mile-an-hour winds and a fire is unstoppable. Like, I just think like, and that could be a testament to firefighters because we think you're superhuman and you do amazing things and you're, robotic or whatever and all this kind of stuff. But really, like, there's nothing you can when those conditions are like that. You just have to get out of the way, right?
Well, I mean, you should, but we don't. We do what we can.
Yeah.
Thank God none of our guys hurt. Like, our guys or women hurt or killed because you're in an inferno, you know? And again, it's just, I hate to be cliche, but that's our job. And we try to do the best we can. And you get ripped for doing whatever you can, and you get ripped for doing what you can't.
Yeah. I mean, how dangerous is it going up into the Palisades like on day one like that and having the winds turn and being like completely enclosed by a fire? Because I don't think people really understand the risk of driving a truck or a car into a fire, like on a road,
Yeah.
but being surrounded by all those homes, and then, like you said, like having this swirling wind and having one side of a valley getting heated up by another, and then having that heat inferno change the position of the wind and have the fire come back at you. Like I mean, you have to stay on your toes or you'll die.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you don't just focus on what you're doing. You got to be looking, you got to have your head on a swivel. You got to be knowing. And that's the thing about the department. It's a team. So you got captains helping out, captains looking out, engineers doing this, firefighters doing this. So everybody's out there to do the job, but you're also out there to protect yourselves and help out, make sure that we don't get hurt or killed. Because we've had people that has happened to. You've had those guys up in the forestry service who same exact thing. But I mean, those guys, that's insane. You're in a real forest,
Hmm.
and these guys drop in, and something happens behind them. The embers come up, and these poor guys are killed.
Yeah.
You know,
One of my teachers when I was at high school, actually, he fought forest fires in northern Canada in the summer times.
yeah,
And he did it out of necessity when he was younger because it paid really well and he had to pay his way through college and stuff like that. But when he went through teachers college and then was teaching me, I think I was like 14 or 15 at the time. And he would tell us stories and pictures and stuff like that. And he just said it was the most like dangerous thing he'd ever done because when you're in the forest and the wind rips off and bounces off the mountains and comes around and he's like the fire can change direction at any moment.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not going to outrun it.
No.
No, that's you don't ever want to have to deploy your brush. What's it called? It just lost the word. It's like, well, it looks like if you're familiar with the old brush blanket. No, it's not.
It's like a fire blanket, right? Like to protect you from the fire, you just like lay down and put the thing over you.
Yeah, it's like a Jiffy Pop popcorn thing.
Yeah.
You just throw it over. Yeah, you don't ever want to have to use that.
Is that like will that like that'll protect you from a fire or
You hope.
yeah, it's all you got, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's tough, man. Like I said, it's just hard to see the people that are ripping on us and talking bad about it, and from top to bottom, nobody wanted this to happen.
No
You know,
benefits, absolutely no one.
no,
Mm.
no, and it could have been, like I said, it could have been even worse or even better if the winds weren't there, or it was in a different area, or it's just unpredictable.
What is the fire department's protocol for you guys if you guys are fighting like an active fire and you guys start seeing looters like running around from house to house or you guys start to encounter people that definitely are not supposed to be in that area
Yeah.
because I read one story and this has nothing to do reflecting on firefighters, but there was one looter who stole a firefighter's uniform and used it to break through the barrier to where and then get up and start looting homes and stuff like that. Like it's such a huge problem, but I'm just wondering, like, you guys are fighting a fire,
Yeah.
risking your lives, trying to save other people's property, potentially other people's lives. And then you got people running around trying to steal shit.
Yeah.
Like, do you even have the time to notice?
No, not when you're getting after it. And usually those people are so far away from the fire too, because, they're not going to put themselves in danger. They're going to go to the easy targets, the areas where people are already gone and whatnot. Um, I'm sure if I was part of an incident and there was some downtime or wherever, and we saw some looters, I mean, for sure we would detain them. You know, I mean, that's part of the job.
Yeah. It's wild.
All around, man, we do everything.
It's amazing. Like, I mean, did you ever get hurt in your 31 years?
Yeah, this last year I've had a knee replacement, back surgery, and throughout my career, I think I had three shoulder surgeries.
Same shoulder as the football? Okay.
No, no, it wears you down, man. It's a tough job. It's a great job. Um, can be very rewarding, can also be very awful. Um, but yeah, you get beat up,
Yeah.
and you don't really realize it until later.
hmm Yeah, I mean, because you must like when you first started, I mean, fresh out of college, fresh out of like NFL training camps, you must have just been ripped and ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know how ripped I was. I was pretty ripped. No, but it was, yeah, you're younger, you're more, you're definitely in shape, and that's part of the job. You have to stay in shape, because your life depends on it. If you have to pull yourself, out of a window or anything, something falls on top of you, you got to get out. If you're not keeping yourself in shape, then you're not very smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the firefighters that are currently fighting this insane fire that's taking over our lives and destroying so many other people's lives, what do you think like the firefighters need right now beyond, just more people and more equipment? Like,
Being out on the lines like
yeah.
right now, probably sleep.
Yeah.
Cal Fire, I think, has taken over the whole fire zone. We're still a part of it.
What's Cal Fire?
They're the entity that has the whole state of California. They're just a giant, and they're really good at what they do as far as brush and all that stuff. So, I'm not really sure. I'm sure there's still tons and tons of our people deployed out there. And again, I'm not, I can't speak on what actually is going on, because from what I see or what I've seen, it looks like the fire's up in the hill. There's no real uh, problem areas right now, or there's structures. I might be wrong, but I'm sure there's still people up there. Like, I know that for sure there's engines up Mountain Canyon, and probably over in Topanga, and probably over on the other side in the valley waiting. And, that's awful, because you're just sitting there
Waiting for a fire to come in and
waiting for a fire. You don't have a bed. You're in your stuff that you've been in for days. The public is great. I mean, you eat like a king, but it's also hard because you're not home. You're not really sleeping. And I'm sure they rotate these guys now. I'm sure they're rotating through, but,
because things are a little bit more under control.
right,
Yeah.
right.
But what if the wind kicks up like tonight or tomorrow or the next day and starts pushing this fire in another direction? Like
I'm sure they'll be out there.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we still got a ton of mutual aid from all over the United States. And, again, LA City, LA County, who are the big departments here, we still have huge areas that we still have to cover. So and not everybody's out there. I know, I don't even know if the station up in the Palisades even has power yet. I know they were running on generators. So, that's probably not very comfortable
No.
as well.
Yeah. If you had the chance to enlist again and someone said, "Hey, like, you want to get back on the line?" Like, would you do it?
Oh, fuck yeah. I'd go right now if they call. I'd go right now. And not only the fire stuff and being so, active and fun and, hard work, just being around the dudes. And I had some great female firefighters that I was with as well. And, it's pretty cool to help people.
Yeah. There's a lot of people out there that need help today, eh?
I mean, again, the rebuild is just insanity.
Will the firefighters have anything to do with the rebuild with regards to like clearing homes or brush or anything like that?
No.
Yeah. Because you guys will probably consult on some of that stuff, right? Because like there's still dangers up there, like with gas mains and electricity and all this. Like, wouldn't you guys have some kind of
I mean, maybe the authority to let people in when it's safe, because, there's still stuff underneath those houses that is, white hot burning still
and completely poisonous?
and poisonous.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I did see the gas company and all those people were up there. So, I'm sure they're working their asses off getting all that gas shut off. I mean, it may even be done by now, and that's almost, I'm not 100% sure, but I know I saw going house to house, shutting off mains and things like that. So,
Mhm. Any of your kids showing any interest in becoming a firefighter?
my son, Trevor, yeah, he wanted to do it a couple years ago, but then he's a pretty kid, so he wanted to do some modeling stuff, and he was in commercial real estate and all this stuff. Now he works over at Fox Sports as a PA. But I tell you, man, as soon as this fire popped off, he's like, "Dad, I'm joining. I'm going in. I'm going in." So we'll see. He's 28. I didn't get out until I was 28, 27. So it's not fun. It's fine. And I had guys in my class that were 18 when they got on the job. That's why I'm retired and they're not, a little older. But yeah, he's always. I have a cousin who came up and visited when he was a little kid, and he's a firefighter down in Houston.
Hmm.
So we got a couple of us.
Yeah. It's a unique calling, I think. Like it's definitely not for everyone.
No, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I mean, stuff you have to deal with, the things that you have to see. Um, yeah, it's not for everybody. That's for sure.
I kind of get squeamish around blood.
Not a job for you.
I'll stick to talking to
That-
I'll talk to the real heroes.
Well, shoot, and doing all the things that you've done, that's pretty amazing.
It's fun, but it's more of a selfish pursuit, I think. Yeah. It's all good. So if people like want to donate to help firefighters or do anything to make the firefighters' life more easy in this insane moment that we're in, like what are some places people can do? Because maybe people have some extra money or they got some extra food or something. Like what can be done?
Well, I know food is not an issue. I mean, when I was down at our station the other day, the front of the station looked like Costco. There's so much stuff. And it's amazing that people do that. And it's just so much stuff. It's not a necessity.
Mhm.
If I think the Fire Foundation is, if people want to donate money, um, that's where that would be done.
Mhm. And that will go directly to helping firefighters.
It goes to it goes to the fire, the entire city of Los Angeles Fire Department, and it's distributed amongst, I mean, there's going to be, that station. And then there's another station down on just, what is it? East of PCH that almost burnt up too. So those are going to have some major things done to 'em, the one there and the one up in the Palisades. So,
I mean, how much of the budget? I mean, I know you're not in the management of the entire fire, but like it's funny to think like what percentage of the budget is used to like upgrade fire halls and repair damaged fire halls because like you said, like the one in the Palisades is fucked and
yeah.
maybe the one in the Malibu needs a lot of fixing too. Like that those could be millions of dollars of refits.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I don't know. I have no idea about that.
Hmm.
I don't know what the budget is. I don't even know what the budget is for the department.
The Brentwood station that you worked in for 13 years, was that building like fireproofed from the outside?
Almost all the fire stations are brick.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, so they had some thought in mind, I guess, but we have fire stations that were built in the 40s. The fire station over by UCLA off of Veteran, I was stationed there for a while. Dude, that thing is so old, it's ridiculous. That's the station that needs to be helped out. I mean, I really should just tear it down.
So the station in the Palisades, when all this kicked off, like they wouldn't have just kind of evacuated, right? Like they would have stayed to protect the station and stayed to help people.
Well,
Like
I think they had to come back.
yeah.
I think they were all out. And then, as the call's going on and they're going, there's some streets behind the fire station. It's called the ABC streets because there were A, B, C, D, or G, whatever.
Alphabet neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, that's burning down and it's going southeast. And they're, so I don't exactly know how they got back because I'm sure everybody was dumped out of the station.
Hmm.
And that's the other thing too. Say that the guys at that station are on another call, you know, and that's sometimes the delay in some of the response times for people. Oh my God, it took them 10 minutes to get here. The ferry station's right around the corner. Well, that station was probably out on another call, you know, and it has to come from the next closest station, which, who knows where that might be because, everybody's busy all the time.
Mm-hmm. And it's not like you guys are just sitting around.
No, not a lot.
No.
Not a lot.
Well, look, have we, is there anything that you wanted to talk about today that we haven't covered? Because I really appreciate your time and getting the chance to kind of get a handle on this incredibly delicate, difficult situation that I really feel has been really muddied with so much misinformation. So it's really great. Like, I know you're not in the field at the moment, but getting your 31-year perspective on what's going on has been, I think, super helpful to myself and the audience.
Yeah. No, I just, you know, I'm hoping that everybody understands that our people did everything they could. And, a lot of prevention will help in the future. I'm sure the rebuild is going to be something that's going to be amazing. And hopefully they take some of those things in consideration. Um, I don't want to burst my own bubble, but I'm starting a business where we use fire pumps that you use for your swimming pools. It's a suction line, and this is pre. I don't want anybody out there fighting fires, but there's a pre-spray you can spray. There's foam, there's gel, there's all these things you can do prior to leaving your house. And that's going to give you a lot better percentage of coming home to a house.
So this is a company you're setting up now.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have a pool in your backyard, you buy one of your suction pumps, put one side in the pool, you have a hose, and then you just hose down your whole house before you take off, and then
Yeah, there's different methods. I mean, the best and what I would suggest to people is you spray the vegetation, and we have foam for that. And what it does is it releases the surface tension, so it makes it saturate better. So you have pre-sprayed as far as you can. I mean, these hoses, they can spray up to, 80, 100 feet. And you're using your pool water, so it doesn't matter. And the average pool is like a fire engine only has 500 gallons of water in it. That's why we have to hook up to higher fire hydrants. Take a pool, 40,000 gallons.
oh, really? Eight times a fire
Yeah.
truck. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so easy. It's so easy for these people to do these kinds of things. And then there's a gel, which is kind of a crazy quick story. A guy down in Florida was putting out a dumpster fire, right? And he noticed that everything's burning in this big trash can other than the diapers, the baby diapers.
Okay. Interesting.
So it's the absorbent gel that was in the baby diapers, but this guy's made this. It's called Barricade. And you can get that stuff, and you can induce that with the a particular nozzle that you get for that. Spray the surface of your house, spray the roof, and that stuff lasts for 36 hours. And I'll tell you, man, if you look online, you see that stuff. You can coat a piece of wood with that and put a torch to it, and it won't burn.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So we're hoping to kick that off here in the next week or so and help people.
Yeah. Well, no, that's great. Like, so 31 years as a firefighter, and now you're an entrepreneur.
I just like to help people.
Well, no, I think it's great. It makes because everyone has. I mean, everyone in this town. If you have a single family home, there's like a 90% chance you've got a pool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's great. I mean, I'm telling you, I've been toying with this idea for years, and I kind of wish I'd done it before. Maybe some people could have gotten better results, but it's all under full steam ahead right now.
Yeah. Well, that's great because I think fire prevention is on the top of everyone's mind at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Well, Bryan, I really appreciate you coming by the podcast, and thanks for sharing all your expertise with us. And I wish you the best of luck on your business ventures. And yeah, just I hope your friends out there are staying safe.
Yeah, me too, man.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So we go up here and we just shake hands so people know we're in the same room. And it's great to meet you.
Thank you. You too.
Come back anytime if you want.
Oh my God, I'd love to.
All right.
Sure.
Thank you very much.